So if we could start by just introducing Stephen Turner, who's been in the Professional Development Director role for coming up for 6 years. He's done 2 terms. Hello, Steve. Can you just talk to us a little bit about why you became involved in your role as Professional Development Director?
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Yeah, so I'm just coming up to 6 years in the role now. My original motivation for doing it was that in the company that I used to work for, I was a consultant. I was increasingly involved in supporting individuals through their application for professional registration process. So for C-Engs and I-Engs and things. And I felt like I'd gained a pretty good understanding of the requirements for professional registration. And I wanted to kind of give something back, really. You know, I'd got chartered myself, and I'd also got my certified system engineering practitioner, my CSEP qualification. So I wanted to contribute back and give back to the institute that had supported me. And I also, there was another ulterior motive, which was I wanted to raise my profile within the system engineering community as well. So, I'd built a career up, having worked in mostly in a rail sense for 15 odd years at that point. And I wanted to kind of raise my profile and build a bigger reputation more broadly in a system engineering space as well. And I think the role is very good for that. So that was an ulterior motive, but primarily it was to try and help support others going through the process as much as I could.
And Tim, your role was introduced last year. You've been helping for a couple of years, really, but your role was formalised with the transition to IFSI. What would you say interested you in becoming involved?
I think the thing that most interested me and drove me to be involved was sort of almost a continuation type activity. So I've worked defence and aerospace and a few other ways for system engineering for a good many years. I became professionally registered more years ago than I care to admit. And then with the entails UK as it was then, there was always a lot of support available. It was useful for me for developing my career and developing my skill set. And with it being populated through volunteering, and it's everybody volunteers their time to actually contribute to provide that support. As I'd taken a lot from it, I thought it was probably about time to give some back in a almost karma type sort of way of give some time back to support others as I'd been supported, and that was kind of the driver for doing it.
And obviously in November your role will transition into becoming the Professional Development Director. How do you feel about that? Are you looking forward to that?
Looking forward to it, yes. I think it'll be a continuation of the training I've had over the last year in supporting this through, which has I think helped enable and prepare me for that role. It's going to be good, I think, to have that continuity through the role, through that deputy role into the director role, so that there's no drop in continuity, and we can continue all the good things that have been set up and go through that process and continually introduce those small minor changes and make things better as we go along. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to provide that continuity through. I think it's fair to say that I don't really understand how Steve managed to deliver the role on his own for so long, because there is a lot within the professional development area that we support. Obviously, people may have been along to any of the monthly webinars that we deliver. There's also various activities along the professional development stuff, as well as IFSI Council and becoming a professional registration advisor and also an assessor. So there's quite a lot in it. So yeah, it's I'm not quite sure how Steve was doing it on his own for a while. So yeah, very glad that there's more of us around to help now.
Yeah, and obviously the person taking over your role will have longer in the role, so even longer to benefit from your knowledge and experience as a director. So I'm just coming back to you, Steve. How do you feel the role has benefited you both professionally and personally?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've done this, as I said, for 6 years now, and I think there's been huge benefits to me personally and professionally. One, it gives you a fantastic network of people, right? Certainly within the institute itself, but also with other institutes, with the Engineering Council, with academia, and within, I guess, global Wincozy to a degree as well. So you do build up a fantastic network of people. The other areas that I think I've gained a lot from is seeing the inner workings of an engineering institute and what happens on council and all the other meetings that happen and the workings of an engineering institute, and as a business, because you become eventually you become in this role a legal director of the company, and that gives you great exposure as well to the other things like like our policies and our finances and our budgeting and all sorts of other bits and pieces as well that comes from running a business. So I think it gives you it gives you a good network of people. I think it gives you a really good insight into the running of an engineering institute, and an insight into the running of a company, which I think has been hugely beneficial for me and I've applied some of that into my day job as well. So I think it's been a huge growth opportunity, this role.
And just focusing on your commitment for a bit longer, I mean, in terms of the time commitment involved, what would you say that's like?
So it is quite significant. There's 4 days a year at least, probably more like 6 in terms of council meetings. We have a regular meeting of what we call our JRB, a Joint Registration Board. So that's 5 times a year. There's preparation ahead of that. There's all the work that goes into maintaining the license that we have with the Engineering Council. Although we've managed to put ourselves on a good footing now, we have a 5-year license, so we don't have to do that on an annual basis like we were at the beginning of my tenure. But there's a lot of work associated with that. There's the expectation that you should be an assessor as well. So you have to kind of keep your competency up in terms of being a professionally registered assessor. So there is quite a commitment in the role. I think the huge advantage of the way we've now set this arrangement up between the professional development director role and the deputy professional development director role is it just provides a huge amount more bandwidth, and that the work can be shared a little bit more. So I think that's been a really positive change that the council has made to create this deputy director role. And as Tim said, it allows the incoming deputy professional development director to grow into the role. I think it is a lot to demand for someone to come straight into professional development director. So I think that's been a positive change. The workload is, there is a commitment. Some of that commitment is in work hours as well. So you need to make sure you've got a sympathetic employer, a supportive employer. But it's a positive thing, I think.
And how do you feel about the workload, Tim? How have you found it so far?
It's interesting because the workload for me kind of almost splits into sort of 3 sort of areas. There's the professional sort of registration assessor, an advisor sort of role. That's something that's expected. So there's a number of panels throughout the year that you'll be expected to be an assessor on. I kind of view that as almost outside of the professional development role, because it's something I will certainly continue doing post my time as a director, because I think it's enriching, it's rewarding. I definitely enjoy it in terms of delivering that level of competence and that assessment, and making sure that we're understood as a professional engineering institute. That's important to me. So that's one aspect of the time that it takes to do this role. The other aspect is as Steve mentioned, the FC Council elements, which is the same for all the council members, I think. So there's the second portion, that's, like I say, various days of meetings and attendance, and then there's the regular catch-up stuff, which is the professional development intense sort of work. So that's making sure that the processes are still in place, everything's going along okay. We're supporting all the webinars we have to deliver. We're supporting our membership in the right sort of way. So whilst there is a big time commitment, it's kind of almost three distinct chunks for me. And as I say, I have an employer that thinks that actually me being on FC Council and being part of this role actually augments my role in the company that I work for as well. So I'm fortunate in terms of that the in-work time is supported to go through, but there is a bit of commitment of external time as well. So it's a lot, but it's also very rewarding. So it's not a drag. It certainly doesn't feel like a drag for me.
So Steve, just looking back over your sort of five and a half years of your tenure, what have the highlights been, do you think?
Well, I think getting the 5-year license was probably the big one. Well, probably getting the first 1-year license extension. So when I first started up, we had our license maybe for 6 or 8 months. We were a new institute. And we were on a sort of system with the Engineering Council where they were reassessing us every year. And that was causing quite a lot of effort and administration time from our side. So when we managed to get ourselves onto a 5-year license, that was a huge success. And for 2 reasons. One, it meant that we didn't have to every year go through this process, which was, as I said, quite onerous. But it also marked a confidence from the Engineering Council that we were doing the right thing. So that was a really positive thing. So I think that's been our biggest success. I also would say that over the 5 or 6 years that I've been in the role and Tim's been supporting, I think we've had huge growth in our membership, in our professional registration numbers, i.e. how many chartered engineers that we have, and also in our CEPS membership as well. So we've had a huge growth of ACEPs and CCEPs in particular. And I think that's reflective of a couple of things. One, I think we've done a really good job in promoting it. And I think that would be an important thing for anyone coming through next to carry on with. But I think we've also done a really good job of making the process as slick and efficient as we could have. I think there's still areas where we could do other things and make it better, no doubt. But I think we've made the process pretty good from the applicant's point of view. And so I think those are the 2 key achievements: is having delivered a 5-year license and made the process about as good as we could have done in the time that we've had.
And Tim, as deputy, what are your best bits?
It's interesting. I think the growth and the number of volunteers we have was probably the most surprising bit. Being able to work and support them is definitely a positive for in the role. I think that's probably the bit that I enjoy the most, is supporting everybody in those processes and sort of going through the training, answering questions and delivering that. That's the bit I think I enjoy the most. The best bit and the most impressive bit, I think, is that we now have this 5-year license renewal. That is a significant vote of confidence from Engineering Council. The fact that our professional registration numbers are going up, that is also fantastic and bucking a little bit of a trend for some of the institutes. And I think now that we're on to the next stage, the best bits are, what else does this enable us to do? This is the fundamentals and the bedrock. But we can now look at other things that we can do to support engineering and system engineering across the UK. So getting involved with Engineering Council, looking at how we support Engineering Council better on a more PEI, Professional Engineering Institute basis, and it's sort of supporting that reputation going forward. So that's probably the best bit, is what we've got to come, I think.
And obviously, one of the reasons for holding this call today is that we're hoping to recruit a new deputy later this year. Tim, what advice have you got to someone who might be looking to take on that role?
I think it's go for it and enjoy it. I've certainly enjoyed my time as deputy and learning about what the role is and improving my skill set. There has been a lot of benefit for me doing it. Yes, we talked around the time commitment, and actually it's perfectly manageable. You can get on and do it. I've enjoyed it and got an awful lot out of that time. So it's very much an investment of time for me. So my advice is, if you're even thinking it might be something you're interested in, absolutely get in touch, get involved. If it's something that you want to do, absolutely get involved and do it. If it's something that's maybe not quite right now, still get involved, still talk to us about becoming a professional registration advisor, professional registration assessor. Get in and learn how these processes work and what goes on. And I'm sure that will only whet your appetite for actually applying for the role next time it comes available.
And Steve, obviously you're moving on and leaving some big shoes to fill. What advice do you have to Tim moving into your role?
I agree with what Tim said earlier on, which is the 5-year license gives us a foundation. I think that means that you can then start building from that foundation and going off and doing all sorts of other wonderful things. There's opportunities to accredit higher education programs or workplace training schemes. We're involved in defining the standard for the level 6 apprenticeship and how we might be able to work with them to accredit that as well. So I think there's huge opportunities to take this role and go off in all sorts of wonderful directions, but it's all based on having that license, and that's the core of this, really, I think. So I think there's loads of great opportunities, and I'm sure Tim and whoever follows Tim will have their own things that they want to do, and the council will shape that as well. But it all stems from having that license, and that's the bedrock of it all.
So thank you both for joining the call today, and obviously for talking a little bit about how the role's been for you. I'd like to take this opportunity now to just ask our attendees whether any of them have got any questions for either of you, anything they'd like to know, anything they'd like to ask. Selin, you have your hand up.
Hello, thank you both for Tim, Steve and Lynn for the session. Tim knows me probably for our sessions from JLR, so I'm really interested in professional development, both in my professional career as well, and with IFSAE community, if possible. So my question is, Tim answered it in a bit, but what I'd like to know that what would be the best pathway to follow if you would like to become either a deputy director or a director in professional development, like for example, first going for a chartered engineering, becoming a chartered engineering, then becoming an advisor or assessor, or any other roles within professional development team which we might not aware, so that will probably help us to get the experience and the knowledge and get to know the people. So what will be the best steps moving forward to the final goal, to becoming the director? Thank you.
So the first thing is being professionally registered is a sort of a key requisite of coming into the role. So definitely get professional registration sorted and get that through. After that, we can, if needed, do all the training to become an assessor as people are heading into this role. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a professional registration assessor before applying and putting your hat in the ring, so to speak, for the election. But if that's something you're interested in doing, I'd recommend doing that anyway. If it's something that you're interested in terms of professional development, I'd definitely recommend getting in contact about becoming a professional registration advisor. I'd definitely recommend getting in contact about how you become an assessor, regardless of whether you feel you want to throw your hat in the ring for the deputy director role. If it's something you're interested in, definitely put your hat in the ring, make us aware. There are lots of other volunteering opportunities we have around, particularly in professional development, as we alluded to. Now that we've got the 5-year license extensions, we're in a position to look at other license extensions we can do for either higher educational programs, work-based programs, etc. So we're always looking for people that are have a passion and have an interest in professional development to volunteer and support us in various different ways. So I think what I'm trying to say is definitely let us know, definitely get involved. We're always looking for volunteers and support for delivering the services we do to our members. So the more volunteers we have, the more we can deliver of those services. So definitely get involved. If you want to throw your hat in the ring for the Deputy Director of Professional Development, please do. There are a couple of nomination forms you have to go through to make sure you got your supporters through, and then there are processes which are on the website to go through, which will tell you how that process goes through, essentially nominations committee and then into an election later on this year. So it's something, if you have an interest in it, definitely worth doing. Sorry, Steve.
I was just going to add, that's all great, Tim. I was just going to add, I don't know where you are in your career stage, Celine, or the other guys on the call, but there's also the Early Careers Forum, where there are positions on there that kind of cover things like professional registration and professional development in an early career space. So I don't know where you are in your career stage, but another way of getting a little bit of visibility into council and a little bit of visibility as to what these roles, Tim and my role entails, could be through the Early Careers Forum. But it sort of depends on where you are in your career stage, I guess.
Thank you so much, Paul. So, Steve, just to add on that, so I have like almost 15 years of experience. So, is it too late for early career? So I don't know how to map those things. But do you have any, at least these level of years of experience for become a deputy or director? Do you have anything?
No. I mean, I don't think the Early Careers has an upper limit.
Okay.
I think it is kind of aimed more for kind of graduates and sort of earlier career individuals. But so whether you want to go that route or not, it's up to you. But the only real prerequisite to the role, as Tim said, is to be professionally registered yourself. It is a requirement to hold a level of professional registration for the role. Eventually, because the way that Tim and my role, we sit on what's called the Joint Registration Board, and in order to sit on that Joint Registration Board, you do need to be a trained assessor. But that can come a little bit later into the role. I think we can make that work. So the training you would need to have to be a professional registration assessor can be delivered while you're in the role. It would mean that you wouldn't be able to sit on the JRB until you had that level of training. So logistically it's a little bit tricky, but it's not insurmountable.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we also have a question now from Kazik.
Hi, hello, and thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. So, Tim, you know me from iSpacey. We had a meeting a few weeks ago. Hope to speak with you again soon about that. And Stephen, you don't know me, but I've also got a question about how do you think that if there were a new deputy director should ensure that the needs of associate or affiliate members are represented in the future sort of professional development strategies, and what would be the most efficient route for an associate to upgrade to professional membership in time for next elections next year?
So associate members wouldn't be able to apply for professional registration as it stands currently. So you'd have to be a full member of IFSI to apply for the role. You don't necessarily have to have your professional registration with IFSI as well. So if you were chartered with another institute, say, that would be fine. But you would have to be a full member of IFSI to be able to apply for the role. Your question about how do we support affiliate members? I mean, that's quite a broad one, really. So I guess in the future, I'll try and contain it to professional registration and professional development, because it could go off into all sorts of different areas. But in the future, I mean, as I said earlier, once we've got our license secured, which we have now, there's all sorts of opportunities, I believe, that you could look at accrediting training programs, higher education programs, workplace training schemes. You would need, well, IFSI would need their license to be extended by the Engineering Council to do those things, and we don't yet have them. But those options would be available to you in the future, so that you could provide potentially more accredited training programs for anyone to take, I guess. And then if at some point later on they wished to then apply for professional registration, then as part of their what's known as initial professional development, so their training and their record of training that they've done, some of that training might be accredited as meeting the requirements of the UK spec. So I think that's how I'd answer that. Tim, is there anything you would want to add to that?
No, I think it covers it, because in terms of professional development, so individuals improving their knowledge and understanding, we've got a couple of different routes through that. So the professional registration is how you go through and demonstrate that you're meeting the competencies set by Engineering Council. But we also have an awful lot of resources available to members in terms of papers, working groups. There's an awful lot to get involved in outside of the professional development, which looks after the professional registration and the certification primarily. Those are the things that we focus on to get through. But in terms of the resources that are available for members, affiliate members, as well as professional members, there's a lot of information there. So we tend to focus on the professional registration and the certification, and exactly as Steve said, there's different options around that we are now open to us to go and investigate and see what we can deliver to support a wider range of our membership.
Yeah, having had a little moment now to think of another thing, the other thing that's worth mentioning is, as a fully licensed engineering institution, we get a seat at the table for Royal Academy of Engineering and the Engineering Council. And so as an example, the Engineering Council at the moment are looking at updating their standards, the UK spec and other standards. And so Tim and I and others within the Institute have been part of the workshops to review the standards. And so one of the things we're trying to make sure that is happening in the next iteration of the standards, which we weren't able to influence previously, is to make sure that system engineering and system thinking is well represented in that set of standards that the Engineering Council will produce. So, that goes back to my sort of earlier comment about, the network effect of being in this role, and the fact that you get the opportunity to be in those spaces and potentially influence things as well. So, I think that would be my answer to your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from attendees? Okay, so I think probably before we wrap up the call, I just wonder whether either of you have got any final advice to any individuals who might be considering getting more involved in professional development and perhaps joining the IFSI Council. Any final advice, Steve?
Look, I mean, I think my view would be there's a million reasons not to do things. I mean, Lynn, my first day in this role, I had a 4-day-old baby. And there was moments where I was thinking, what am I doing? Why have I taken this on with a brand new baby? So, there's always reasons not to do things, and it is, there is demands on your time and a commitment. But look, I look back on the time I've spent in the role, and I think it's been a fantastic position to be in. Huge experience, huge growth opportunity. And I don't regret any of it, but there are moments where there's always a reason not to do something, perhaps. But I would just say, look, if you're interested, just give it a go.
And Tim, any final words from you?
I'd echo that. I'd literally, if you think you might be interested, get involved, because it is more rewarding than you think it will be. I think is the strapline. I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I've learned a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm certainly getting a lot more out of it. So it's definitely worth doing, because you will get more out of it than you thought you would.
This role, the role that Tim's going to take next, and maybe one of you might be interested in doing in the future. The role gives you the opportunity, right? So IFSI as a licensed engineering institute gets a seat at the table. It gets to influence. It's one of many voices, inevitably, and some of those voices are very loud and powerful. We are not the IET, and we are not the IMechE or the ICE. Those institutes carry tens of thousands of members. So we are not in that space, but we do have a seat at the table. So the role gives you that opportunity. If there are aspirations to want to influence, this is probably one of the better roles in IFSI Council to do that. The other one might be outreach, where there is other, they have a slightly different purpose. The outreach director has a slightly different purpose, obviously, to this role. But those are the two roles that I think probably have the greater opportunity to influence things.
And certainly, you're free to contact. The contact details for those roles are available on the website. So if there's anything, you would like to email, then please feel free to use that way to contact the directors. Okay, so I'd like to just take this opportunity to say thank you to Steve and to Tim for joining us today and sharing their experience in their roles, and for everyone who's taken the time to attend. And just to let you know that information on the forthcoming elections will be available in the next edition of ePreview. And we will be looking to invite nominations sort of around June, July time, 2026. Okay, so thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.